Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the third town hall with Teresa Myers-Ervin. My name is Brian Emmon. I'm a local small business owner and have lived in Florence since 2005. My wife and I chose to make Florence our home, have raised a family here, and have had the pleasure of meeting Teresa Myers-Ervin years ago through different community events in the Parks and Recreation Department. Since that time, Teresa and I have worked together on various projects throughout the community. And over the years, I've gotten to know Teresa and see her commitment to the people of Florence. I've witnessed her tireless efforts to bridge the divide in Florence and bring people together from all walks of life to create a brighter future for this city that we all call home. Because of Teresa's character, commitment, and willingness to work together, I support her for mayor and know she's the right candidate to move Florence forward. And I hope you will all join me in making Teresa Myers-Ervin the next mayor of Florence. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our moderator, Jaleel Mann, to explain how to use Zoom during this event.
Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the town hall with Teresa Myers-Ervin. Zoom is pretty easy to use, very good. So you'll see once you've got the window open, you'll see all the participants on the right-hand side. What's most important is that menu across the bottom of the screen. So that menu there will give you access to the chat. You can feel free to type your questions into the chat box, and we will make sure that each of your questions are answered before the conclusion of the town hall. So please be sure to mute your phones. We don't need any ringing going on during there. And if you need to, please go ahead and close any other windows that you have on your computer, because we don't want any other distractions or take away any internet bandwidth that may interfere with the broadcast of this town hall meeting. So feel free to type your questions in. We will get to them in the order they're received. And from here, we're gonna go ahead and turn it over.
Well, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for coming here today to share some time with me. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Teresa Myers-Ervin, and I'm actually a Florence City Councilwoman here, and I'm also a candidate for mayor. I do want to let you know that I'm a lifelong community advocate. I'm also a nurse and a realtor, as well as a trained mediator. I have been a lifelong resident. My husband and I met here, and we got married when we chose to stay in Florence. And just as you will know my history of education, I'm a Florence School District 1 graduate, as well as a graduate of Florence Darlington Technical College and Francis Marion. I also hold an honorary doctorate degree from Francis Marion. And with that, with my family and my young adults, seeing my history here, seeing the education that I was able to attain here in Florence, my young adults are all alumni now of Francis Marion University as well. And what's occurring, I do want people to realize we're still in the COVID-19 season, and my family members and myself are all frontline workers. So I do want to encourage everyone to be mindful that Florence, we have not reached our peak yet. We did a city update today. Our mayor was present, the rest of the council. We were not there. We were on Zoom if we want to Zoom in, because we are encouraging people to maintain their distance still. Florence has not peaked yet. Yes, we do have businesses who are opening back up, but even when you go into those businesses, please be mindful that while you're out, please wear a mask to cover your face. And if you're sick, please stay at home. Wash your hands frequently. Disinfect any kind of surfaces in your home that you touch a lot. And a lot of people don't even think about the fact that when we're driving, we touch our car doors and also our steering wheel frequently. So remember, even wipe down the door handles of your car, your vehicle, and your steering wheel. One of the latest updates that is occurring is that the COVID-19 virus can be carried in particles on steam. So cities who have a lot of industry that create a mist, it's shown now that the virus can be carried on that. So if you have not yet started to cover your mouth and your nose, I will encourage you to do so. And we have had an increase in the number of cases here in Florence, but we're not at a level what is stated to be able to overwhelm our medical system yet. But being a nurse myself, I will encourage you to understand, even though we do not have cases to the extent of the larger cities in their hospital to quote unquote overwhelm it. I will encourage you to protect yourself so we won't do that. I want people to be aware there has always been a nursing shortage. So if you're not taking care of yourself, and if nurses are getting sick, we won't have the staff to cover to give the type care that clients need. So you can help the medical professions by self-quarantine, using telemedicine before you go into the system. I will encourage you, if you think you're sick, call your doctor's office or use telemedicine. And even before then, check with your insurance to be sure that a telemedicine call will be covered. That if you think you might have been exposed or you're having some symptoms, you can call in and talk with a medical profession over the internet. And then they can encourage you the steps that you need to do so you won't come in and bring the potential virus into a medical institution. And those are the main thing. And I would encourage you to go to the CDC website so that you can keep up with the latest. Our news here on a local level is actually doing a wonderful job of keeping us updated on what is occurring. But on those notes, I want to tell you that I love Florence, and I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful to be a part of the leadership team. I have chosen to stay here, and not only that, to be a part of the leadership and service. But as we're approaching the season now that we will be electing a new mayor, I have offered myself as a servant leader to lead the city of Florence forward. And I'm running because I've served and I've seen the progress that we have made as a council, because we have been able to communicate with each other, trust and respect each other. Trust and respect and communication is what has made this council successful since 2010. And I want to see that continue. I don't want to see us going backwards. And I'm running because I'm the leader who's shown true leadership, the developing projects, yes, community development, economic development, downtown development have all been a part of my leadership, of my service since 2010. So please consider me to be your candidate, a candidate you can trust and depend on, not just by my asking you to do that. Go to my website and take a look. Look at Teresa Myers Ervin. Read about me on www.florencemail.com. Pull up your articles on scnow.com and let my work speak for me. And it's based on that I'm glad to be here today with this town hall meeting. And I want to know if there's any questions or anything that anyone has of me. So at this time, I'm gonna open myself up for any questions that may be offered. I do want to let you know that I will be covering things associated with our infrastructure today. And I know that we do have some questions in place. So I want to give you a little bit of information. So if you have the questions, you can ask them too. But when it comes to infrastructure, depending on which branch you're looking at, when it comes to roads or streets here in the city of Florence, I tell everyone the city actually sets in the county. That's just one of the things I was told by one of our fellow councilmen. The fund that covers our repairs, especially our pavement, it comes through a 1 cent penny tax. That 1 cent penny tax is something that we receive a portion of from the county. But also that 1 cent penny tax is up now for discussion to see how it will be distributed to the various entities. And I'll say this one of them. For us, that penny sale tax is important for us to be able to pave the streets. When it comes to a city, Florence, we do not pave. We can fill potholes and maintain, but we do not do the paving of the streets. Those are things that has to be contracted out. But not only that, we do have the Florence Transportation Committee, and that particular committee, and it's actually Florence County Transportation Committee. That committee actually receives the funds which are raised by the taxes that's on our property taxes. Those tax goes to that committee. That particular committee is a state appointed committee. So funds to do various road works has to be requested through them, and they have the approval for that. So our roads are pretty well based on 1 cent sales tax and funding from the Florence County Transportation Committee. But we also have to look at, there's some streets still in the city which are actually state streets. So when you're looking at our infrastructure, you're looking at state streets as well as city streets. And that would actually affect how those roads are maintained as well. But then when we look at our stormwater itself, that pretty well we maintain it and we do repairs on that as needed. And also when it comes to stormwater drainage, in the past, when you had maintenance or roads being, or either stormwater being in place, it was built to, on the average prior to 2007, up to a 5-year rain season. But now, climate has changed. But after 2007, the drainage system are built on the average for a 20-year rain on a home. But when it comes commercial, they're built up to 100-year rain. And so when you think about our city is a flat city. So even though we have made upgrades into the amount of drainage that can be drained away, just remember that as the climate change, we start to get more rain. Being flat, the water will drain off, but it still takes some time for the system to be able to handle the volume of water that's entering our stormwater drainage. And we have looked at, with our present budget, we have got some projects that we will be working on to help facilitate the drainage through the stormwater drainage. So we've already looked at that. We've already got these things in place. We voted upon that, I believe it was probably, I want to think it was the March meeting. So we're already doing that. Things to improve the stormwater drainage as a city council right now, as a whole, we're doing that. These projects will be spaced out over time. So we've already planned for it. So it's not something that someone, whether a new mayor comes on or not, going to say, I'm going to do this with the stormwater. We've already doing it. We're already planning. We already got it budgeted out. We've got some future projects that we're going to be looking at coming up with our budgeting season for later during the year. So as a city, we've already planned for our stormwater. This council has done that. It's actually in process. It's already planned for. So as a city, and I will compliment especially our city manager and the city staff, they do analysis and they look at these things to see what is needed. And then they bring these projects to us. So we've actually planned for that. That is a quick synopsis on our part of our infrastructure. But at this time, I would like to ask Jaleel, is there any questions at this point, Jaleel, that we have?
So yes, we have a question from Brian, which is, why is Florence ranked number 15 in the country for the daily growth of coronavirus? And what can we do to change that?
Okay. We're right now at 15. If you remember, I was telling you that there's some cities that's already hit their peak. That means that they have got the massive number now and they're starting to see a decline. Florence, we have not hit our peak yet. We're starting to see that incline. So this week, let's look for it. These numbers are going to go up. And the reason why, when you think about the fact that Corona or COVID-19, this is a new disease that we're studying. We're learning how it operates. How do you expose others to? So we're constantly learning this particular disease. Here in Florence, we were graced not to have any known cases. And I say grace because when you're not testing or don't have enough tests, you cannot identify the cases. Now that we're starting to have the tests available and we're starting to test, we're going to start identifying these cases. And that is going to cause an increase in the peak force, because now we can be able to identify that. And not only are we only going to be able to identify, that'll help with the treatments. And we have to look at that when we're identifying these cases. Florence and the governor had already put this, this whole state on a lockdown, which really helped because people was physically separating. And I want to use that word physically because physically we need to be apart so we won't transmit the virus. But there are situations where people have just not been able to honor that. When you have someone who's what I call a carrier or asymptomatic, they may have this virus. And if they're not covering their face and they're out socializing, they're touching things, they're starting to put that virus at various places. Then when that person who may be asymptomatic gets around someone else, they can transmit it. And they can unknowingly do this. That is why for us to be able to prevent this, it's important that we do what we can, wear the mask. So we cover our airway, that is the mouth and the nose. But not only that, we're going to have to wash our hands so frequently as compared to maybe the times in the past that people have done. But the hand washing, physically distancing ourselves, and wearing that mask is very important from what we know right now. And we know that this information is continuously evolving, because even now that 6 feet distance has now also been looked at, being able to spread that distance out. And I'll give you an example. Actually, I was hearing one of the doctors on one of the shows speaking about today was that you have to think about if you're driving or riding in a car with someone and you've got the windows up and that person may have COVID-19, that virus is trapped in that car with you. So that increased the risk of you being exposed to it. And also it was encouraged that if you're riding with a large volume of people or people in your car, crack the window and circulate air from the outside so that virus won't have time to sit in that vehicle. So the long and short, Brian, is that we're seeing an increase now because we're testing and people are starting to show symptoms here in Florence County. So I believe we're going to see more. And also, I explained earlier that when it comes to public and private testing, when someone is tested, let's say as a private doctor's office, it may take that information a little bit longer to show up in DHEC system. But realistically, we expect the numbers to go up here in Florence County. That's expected. And we can help by wearing our masks and staying home when all possible. If you don't have to go somewhere, don't do it. Don't do it. Even though we have the right to do so and been given that right to do so, we have to operate under precaution to protect ourselves. And I've said all before, to protect our neighbors. We can do this. We do not need government to tell us to do this. We can do it. So mask up, wash your hands, maintain physical distance, only go to places when you have to go there. If you're going to need to get out in your yard, socialize with your family, who you're going to be there with. So if you got it within your household, it will stay there with you. And I hate to say it, you want to isolate it to your environment where you usually will be at. I'll give you an example. For me, my husband and my daughter being here, we can socialize here at home because literally if one of us is asymptomatic and we don't know it, we're going to have it on average anyway. But it still isolates it just to my household. And that is what we're going to have to do. Try to contain this virus because it's not going away over the summer from all the projections. It's going to be with us. How the numbers are looking, there's been speaking of possibly of vaccines in September, but a lot of your professionals are telling you it may well be next year. So we have got to learn to live different for right now until we can get a vaccine. And even when we do that, we're still going to have to operate with what I say good hygiene, good hand washing technique, covering our mouths and nose and disinfecting. And I know I repeated that a lot, but that's what's going to literally take. We're going to have to do it. And I know there's some concern about whether or not it would live on your shoes. That's one of the things that's been checking out as well. But right now they're saying that if you're in a medical facility or a nursing home facility, you might be able to track them on your shoes, but under normal circumstances, it should not be carried on your shoes, but it's the average layperson. And for me as a nurse, I think I did a posting to show people when I'm going to work, I actually have a pair of shoes that I put on so that I can actually go to my truck and go to my locker and change, and I will put on my nursing shoes. But I have even changed that now as a nurse. I have shoes that I wear to my transportation. I go to the hospital. Once I get to the hospital, then I change into a pair athletic shoes. Then I go into the hospital, go in my locker, then I put on the nursing shoes. And those shoes, my nursing shoes, never been to my home except when I bought them brand new. So we go to a screen to prevent the spread of infection. So we need the public now to go to an extreme to protect the public from infection. And Brian, I hope I answered that for you. I knew it was a long answer, but this is a very serious virus with a lot of information that we know, but yet still a lot that we don't know.
All right, Brian. Well, I hope you got to answer your question. That was a pretty thorough answer. Thank you, Councilwoman Ervin. So the next question is from Suzanne, and she wants to know what are some of the future projects that are slated for the city of Florence? What's up and coming?
And I'm not sure if she's referring which projects that she's referring to, but just I was saying, we do have infrastructure projects that we have planned, which will be addressing various drainage areas on different sides of the city. So it won't just be one side, it will be various areas. And the reason why we're able to have those projects only for our stormwater is that we actually have a city system where they actually do feasibility studies. They look at which areas or what can be done to the city drainage system or the stormwater system in order to improve drainage overall. So we do have, I want to think right now that the last number, I want to say it was probably about 9 projects, and we're slated to actually add some more. I want to think there's going to be about 12 more projects that will be added on. So when it comes to stormwater, we're looking at we're close to, I want to say it's 12 and plus about 9, so about 21 stormwater different projects that we have on track that we will be addressing. And then when it comes to community, I've already stated we've started the homes on Vista Street, North Florence area. We've got the housing area, Old Carver Station off of Sumter Street, but also we have Historical Pine, which will be coming up. And that area was gonna have there's 17, properties that we've already have there. But also on the recreational level, we have plans at the tennis center to add baseball fields, and that's going to be fields so that the young children can play on, as well as we will have a field that is such as if Francis Marion wanted to play games. So we're expanding our tennis center to be more of an athletic complex. We're also adding a track, and track has not had a permanent home as well, but track will have a permanent home at the tennis center so that they can have events there. We have funding that we've already approved to be able to improve our present park system. So our various parks, we will be doing some upgrades there as well. We have, when it comes to our downtown area, we actually just have a partnership that's come forth, and some of you might be familiar with or know the Florence Steam apartment that was located on the corner of Evans and Court Street. We have a developer who will be working there, and they will be bringing various things such as offices. Also, there will be some homes built there. So that is going to be a major project. But the city also will be placing a parking deck there at that site too. So that's going to be more expansion. Those are some of the major projects that will be taken care of here in Florence. But also, we announced, I believe it was last year, that the nursing home that's presently located between the streets of Sumter and Marion Street, that particular nursing home will be moving to 52, which is located in the West Florence area, moving off to Northwest area. So that particular nursing home will be a brand new facility there. And not only just a nursing home, they do have some planned expansions that will go with that as well. We have several projects that we're looking at, but those right now are the ones that are solid projects that we've already have established that will be occurring. And that's just a few of the projects. I hope that answers some of your questions for you, Suzanne. If not, please let us know.
All right, great. We've got another question from Brian, and he says, to circle back around to infrastructure, I believe that you said the current city government has already addressed and put plans in place to address funding for city infrastructure. However,
Mhm.
according to a SC Now article, your
Mhm.
opponent for mayor, George DeBailey, stated that he would address the lack of funding for city infrastructure like roads and stormwater drainage. Can you tell us to what
Mhm.
level the lack of funding has been addressed?
Well, the lack of funding with the with stormwater drainage and everything, we've already have a what we call a borrowing, where you borrow money in order to pay for this. We have that. We've already done that. We're adding more projects to that. So what we will be doing is going back and just increasing that. So we've already got the funding in place, and what we will do in order to increase that funding. Present City Council right now, we have already addressed that funding issue. So it has been addressed. We've already got the answer for that. So that is being done with the storm water rate. And I think what was the other part, of Julia? The storm water and the roads. When it comes to the roads, this is what's happening there. We're still looking at the 1 cent tax. We're actually working with the county, trying to establish how those fundings will be is dispersed and work with the county so that that particular sale tax can pass. Now, the only ones are the people who can ensure that that happens is the voters. The voters will need to vote for the 1 cent penny tax. That is not something that we as a council can go through and we're going to pass and no. You, the voters, when you look at that 1 cent sales tax and what we call the penny tax, the voters determine that. So I want the city to understand we have the funding, we have the plan for the stormwater. That's done. We will have that and we'll have all these things projected out for the next 5 years. So we're covered there. When it comes to the roads, that is going to be an issue settled when the 1 cent sales tax comes around, and you, the voter, will determine that, not the city council.
Fantastic, great answer. So we've got a couple other questions. Let me pull this up. We do have a couple questions that were
Mhm.
passed to us before this town hall. So I'm not going to be able to give you names on some of these, but
That's all right.
I'm going to go ahead and give you the next.
Okay.
All right, so the next question is who ultimately makes the decision where the money goes?
Well, depending is I always give this answer where the money goes. The money goes where it is legally able to go in order to meet the requirements of where we can place it. I'll give you an example. There's always been a concern with people when it comes to downtown development, but the money that is generated in what we call a TIF district, a tax increment district, it is outlined for that downtown area. The money's generated within the downtown area goes back into that particular area because that's where it's generated from, and it's for that particular TIF area. We also have accommodation tax and hospitality taxes. Those particular taxes are generated by your hotels and also food and beverages. So those funds, because of how they're set up legally, goes back into those areas because that's the areas are the services that generate those money. So those monies are determined that way. There are some things with the TIF district that it can be used for, but it's already outlined legally how those monies have to be dispersed. When it comes to the roads, when you have money that comes from the road, when we put a request in, when the city have a request for roads, the county with the TIF money, or excuse that, with the 1 cent sales tax, we give them a list for them to be able to approve for us to be able to get a certain amount of roads done. And with that, there is a grading system where the conditions of the roads are actually graded. And depending on how those roads grade determines when or if they will be paved. Everything is done by a grading system or analysis. It's not that we're not gonna go up there and say, well, we need more in this area or that. Those fundings are actually set up and determined already by a system. And when it comes to, let's say, some of the monies that are generated, I'll give an example of the Mayor's Coalition and No One Left Unsheltered. This particular program take care, especially like the needs of our 501c3 organizations who come together. And we as a city select or isolate a certain amount of funds, which is given to that organization. Then that organization actually gives funds to the nonprofits based on their analysis of how they do when it comes to who gives what services. So the monies that we use out of funds is done on a rating system. That is how it's determined. And then when it comes to the community development block grant, there's a history of how those funds are dispersed. And we use those guidelines based on how things have been done, but yet you update them as you have new needs come forth. So everything is actually done on a system. And yes, all systems can be changed as long as it is legal and meet the legal guidelines. So when they bring a budget to us, it has to meet legal guidelines. And that is, a lot of input is given before it comes to us as council. And that's a short answer, and it can be more detailed, but I just want you to get a general idea of how those fundings are determined. And also how much money you have and how much money you have in your general fund, all those things plays a part into how much funds go anywhere.
All right, the next question.
Mm-hmm.
Are grants available to the city of Florence for infrastructure?
Actually, there's no grants available for infrastructure. I know some people are probably thinking about that we work with Timmonsville to help with their issues that they were having with their water system. We did have what we call, it was actually a forgivable loan, but that was a particular loan that was given based on a need from Timmonsville. And understand that as a city, our size and the fact that the income brackets and the various things that we have here, we do not qualify for grants. These grants are designed more for your smaller towns, not for a town like the city of Florence. So when anyone ever heard that particular grant that was reused a couple of years back with Timmonsville, that was actually a forgivable loan. In other words, they forgive you of that, and that was done because we needed to help our neighbors, help Timmonsville when they was going through a water crisis. And so those particular things were set up not only from local government, but from federal government. So that there again is a system that we work with to get that. But otherwise, we do not have things that we are qualified for at this time as a city for grants. And that's for things like the infrastructure. Do we have any other questions, Julia?
Next question is, as a city councilwoman, have you been a part of this process?
Yes. When it comes to each year, we hold a budgeting workshop. And what we do is that the various departments actually get to their department heads, actually have their budgets designed, and they bring those forth, and they will bring those particular budgets to us. And we do discuss it. There are certain projects or things that's on there that we look at and discuss, and we questions the amount and how we can change. So it is really, the city is a large business. We have areas who specialize in getting their directors who get their budgets together for us as a city. And then, they meet with our, city manager, and they go through and they scrutinize that budget, and then they bring it to us, and then it goes through the process of, again, for us to scrutinize it. So yes, since 2010 to now, I've been a part of the budgeting sections, but also that when it comes to the community development block grants, I actually love to be at some of the meetings to hear what people are saying of how those funds are going to be utilized. So yes, I have definitely been and will continue to be involved with our, our budgets and our funds.
All right, and we've got one more so far. It says, I'm very concerned about global warming and living in a greener city. As the city grows and our water, sewer, and roads are improved, will you commit to investing in the most environmentally safe and clean way?
I'll put it to you like this. As a city, we already invested in what is safe for our environment. One of the things you might want to look at is remember, Florence, South Carolina is a tree city. We have won, that title because one of the things we do, we plant a lot of trees. And as you know, the trees help to clean the air for us and plays an important part of our environment. So I'm already committed, and I believe our city, we're committed to do anything that will improve the lives of our citizens. And yes, of course, but whatever we do, we will look at it, study it, because we want to show whatever we do is correct for the city of Florence. We will do what it takes to have a livable, clean city.
All right, thank you. So out of all of the questions that we've had here, I'd like to afford everyone the opportunity to go ahead and unmute at this time. If you do have a question for this town hall, please go ahead and ask your question at this time.
Okay, Ms. Ervin, this is Pastor Beatty.
Yes, sir.
I got a question for you on infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
You said the city does the patching, if I'm understanding right, and the county does the paving. Am I right?
Well,
Based
the
on the
city-
grading.
right. Well, the city we have the equipment to do our patches or filling holes. When it comes even to the county, when it comes to paving the roads,
Yes.
these jobs are actually contracted out
Okay.
to paving companies. It's contracted out. But the funds are, generated through the county when it comes to the property tax on like your vehicles. Those particular taxes will be directed through the county.
Okay. So who determines when to stop paving, stop patching, and begin to pave it? Say for instance, you get a street that's paved and patched.
Pastor, you're breaking up real bad.
I was saying, who determines when to stop patching and paving? Does the county make that decision, or does the city make that decision? You say, for instance, you have a street that keeps getting patched over and over and over again, and you think eventually you want to pave this thing. Who makes the determination when to pave it and stop patching it?
And this, to be honest with you, funds, the money makes that determination. But what brings that criteria forth is we have a grading system. There's a grading system that grades the level of where a road is at, or the street. And that is how it's placed on a list so it can be paved. Then when it comes around, when it's time to submit those streets, you submit them and you have a certain limit of funds. So all the streets are rotated off, but it usually takes a couple of years for them to go through a rotation to get them all done.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's the main thing. It rotates off a list. And I know it seemed hard, but there is a grading system where they grade where the streets are, add on that need. And I know we do have some rough roads. We do.
Yes. So do they keep track on how many times they patch it? Say, for instance, if you patched it over the last 3 years, 10, 15 times, that should be telling you it's maybe time to pave this road. You understand what I'm saying? So how do you track how many times it's patched before you say, okay, it looks like we need to pave this road?
Well, when you're calling in or you call in, those things that goes in through Public Works, and Public Works has a record of that. But also you do have city workers, when you're seeing them out riding around, they are viewing these streets. So when you're seeing people out there, they're just not riding around. They're actually going through, they're observing these streets. And even, officers, they find one that maybe a bad area is at, they can even call it in. So we do have that. And we do have the streets and thing, they're being watched. They really are. And the biggest issue, like I said, is having the funds to be able to do this. Because what has happened over time, you've had state streets that have been given over to the city, but even though those streets was given over, the funds to take care of those streets were not.
Okay, I understand. Like I said, I just wanted to know, you say call in, so as a citizen, I can call in to who? The city or the county? Public Works.
If you call into Public Works, and
Okay.
you tell them that there's a pothole or something here, and they have the ability to determine, if that is a street or do they need to contact. I'll give you an example. There's a street that Alexander Street, which is off Alexander and Darlington. There's an area there, but because there are potholes in the city, you actually have an area that is actually county. And when it came, there's a severe leak that's been going on for a while. But the area was actually a state street when it all boiled down. But the city was actually coming out to maintain that to the state could get there because it was just that severe.
Okay.
So that is one of the things too. You have some state streets that the states will come in, and there are certain things when it comes to the state streets that they are very particular about that they desire to handle.
Okay. Okay. Well, I travel all around town, so there's a lot of streets I find that they patch more than they will pave. I just want to know who makes the determination. How is determined which streets get paved and which streets are patched? How long do you keep patching before you pave it?
It's a grading system that you grade them, and you have a listing that you will rotate these streets through to get them paved. And usually by the time you get through paving a certain number, the other one's gotten bad again. Yeah. And a lot of time, what I'm finding too, highly traveled streets tend to have a lot of wear and tear too, that increase the needs for them to be able to be repaired. And sometimes you do have issues that when you have things like lines or anything that leak in the street, then you have to go in there and excavate, and that creates another lump there. So there's systematic things too that creates these lumps in our streets as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, so we've got another question from Suzanne. Suzanne, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Good evening, Councilwoman.
Good evening.
This is really a question from my dad.
Okay.
He always asks me, Susie, why aren't they spraying our parks like I see them do on television for this virus?
Well,
do you have an idea?
Our parks are closed. Our parks are closed. That I want to reiterate, our parks are closed. And so when our parks were closed, no one should be on those parks. And that is why I'm continue to want to encourage us to understand our city parks are closed. And you should not be, and you should not be on the things at the park. And even if you sprayed those, if I sprayed something, like even now, and 10 minutes later someone else comes on it, they're putting that virus back out again. So that is what we don't want to encourage people to come to the parks to be on these things now, because it's not safe. It really is, it's not. And even if you spray the parks, and just being honest from a medical standpoint, I could spray that park right now this morning, and let's say someone else brought their kids, they've been there, they leave someone else. You cannot keep those things sanitized when people are continually getting on them. And that's why. And if you do it, that's just a false sense of security, because every time someone come back and touch it, you got germs again. So that's one of the reasons why. And I would encourage people not to go and get on the public park things, because any place a person who can carry a virus to, you're increasing the risk that you will be exposed to that virus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We'd like to open the floor again just for any other questions. So if you do have a question, then please go ahead and unmute your microphone and feel free to ask your question. If you have already asked a question, please be courteous of other attendees and mute your microphone once your question is done. All right, so we're gonna ask for questions one more time. All right, well, it seems like we don't have any other questions right now, and we're going to turn this over to Reverend Leo Woodbury. and he's going to explain how you can help with the campaign. So, Barry, could you please go ahead and help us out here? Tell us exactly how we could support Councilwoman Teresa Myers Ervin in her journey for Florence mayor.
Okay, thank you so much, Jaleel. There are so many different things that we can do. We can volunteer, and as volunteers, we can distribute materials, we can make phone calls, we can help with registering people, we can help with absentee voting, with taking people to the polls, even doing some research. So there's loads and loads of ways that folks can help Teresa Meyer Ervin become the next mayor of the city of Florence. I want to say, as for myself, that I moved to Florence 34 years ago. And at that time, Florence was a booming, prospering city. We had all of these manufacturing and textile plants. Everybody remembers Sara Lee, Legs, and others. And people were opening up businesses, many downtown for the first time. People were buying homes. They had Jim Walter Homes contracting and building homes. People were buying second and third cars for the first time. Then through no fault of our own, NAFTA came. And all of these very prosperous jobs disappeared. And for a while, we, like most of America, had to struggle and readjust. But in 2010, when Councilwoman Teresa Myers Ervin was first elected to office, she was one of a group of council people who put together the 10-year comprehensive plan for Florence, South Carolina. Not only did she do that, but she led the way. So we look around Florence now, we see prosperity beginning again. We see the opportunity to have more jobs, not only because of downtown revitalization, but also the many jobs that are needed in the future and can be filled because now we have a medical school. We can look around and see what she's done for housing. We see what she's done in terms of health, recreation. We see the commercial kitchen, the farmer's market, the gym in West Florence, Mapleton Center, the new facility by Iola Park. We've seen Florence stagger and stutter a little bit after NAFTA. But with her leadership and the plan that she helped put together, we see the progress that has been made and where we are today. State-of-the-art performing arts center, museum, just so many different things. And if we want Florence to continue to move forward in the future, then we need to elect as mayor someone who knows how to put plans in place, someone who knows how to implement programs and projects that will help us have a vibrant, growing, prosperous, and a city where other people will love to come and live in. So I just want to go on record. I'm endorsing Teresa Myers Ervin for mayor of the city of Florence and hope all of you will vote for her on June 9th as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Woodbury. At this time, I'm going to turn this back over to Councilwoman Teresa Myers Ervin, and take it away, please.
Well, once again, thank you to everyone who attended today and who will see this in the future, but also to Mr. Brian Emmon. Thank you for the illustrious introduction. Thank you for being here. And to Reverend Woodbury, thank you for the endorsement. Thank you for being able to put in words what I've worked so hard over the years to do and what I desire to continue to do for the city of Florence. I will state again, I love the city. I've worked hard to see us get to this point where we're at now. And I mean literally work, push, led, and plan. I'm not here for fashion. I'm here for service and leadership. Florence is doing good. Florence has come a long way from where we used to be, but we can only continue forward if we continue to work together and have honest leadership, proven, strong leadership. I'm that person. I'm the person who's been here since 2010, pushing these projects forward, leading these projects forward, working to unite our community as one city for everyone to have the best that Florence has to offer. I'm that candidate to continue to do that. I just didn't start a few years ago. I'm the 2010 Renaissance team. And myself and one other council member will be the only two left in that 2010 team. So if you like what you've seen since 2010, then you like me and you like my work. So I am asking for your support and your vote because I want you to also serve Florence and continue to move Florence forward into the future. We do not want to, we do not need to, and we cannot go back. Thank you.
All right, so I will pass this over to our host, Brian Emmon, for to close out this event.
All right, this has been a great event. I'm glad, Teresa, thank you for inviting me. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Reverend Woodbury, pleasure hearing your voice, my friend. Both of you do great work throughout the community and the city, and it makes me proud to know both of you. Teresa, I certainly look forward to working with you in the future. I know it's going to be as mayor because you certainly are the right one for the job in Florence. So glad everybody could make it, and I hope everyone joins me at the polls June 9th to vote for Teresa Myers Ervin for mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.